The following episode was recorded over multiple days due to a few IT issues, but I must say we patched together a pretty entertaining episode. So come join us while we do an Oktoberfest blind tasting, and you don't want to miss out on our hidden episode in the middle where we test out the myth of Das Boot.
God damn, I need IPA.
This is Beering Ain't Easy, your podcast for beer humor, dad humor, and beer tastings from Texas and beyond. So crack one if you got one and turn it up.
Welcome to Beering Ain't Easy, Season 2, Episode 25, with Ryan and Drew.
And Adam.
All right, y'all. We have got Adam coming in live as our Austin correspondent, the Austin Drip. Welcome back to the show.
The Austin Drip is coming at you.
So how's life been as batching it in Austin without your family?
It's relaxing. I'll be honest. Just act like I'm working all the time when I talk to Jody, make her think I'm suffering just as bad.
Treat me so bad at work. All right, y'all. So we are back for an Oktoberfest episode. So if you want the true Beering Ain't Easy experience, I would recommend that you turn off our show and walk away. No, actually turn it off and come back and listen to our last two Oktoberfest podcasts over the last 2 years to get the full lead up to what we have going on today. So how are y'all feeling about getting into Oktoberfest season?
I'm excited because I think that means weather might be about to start cooling down, or at least I can hope, right?
We can always hope.
I always get excited about Oktoberfest. One of my favorite beers.
So if y'all remember from past years, we used to do a format in Beering Ain't Easy where it was local versus state versus national versus international. But I'm going to be honest, the local beers just didn't quite cut it the last couple years, and the international beers kept making their way to the top. And so this year, we're going to take 3 Houston beers and pit them up against our reigning champion. And Ryan, what was our reigning champion from last year?
Paulaner. I discovered a new favorite in this episode last year. So the Paulaner Oktoberfest.
So this is Houston versus the world, because obviously since we called it the best one last year, that means it's the best in the world. So we're going to put our city up against the Germans to see, do we have a shot? Adam, do you have any bold predictions on whether Houston Oktoberfest can stack up against the reigning champ?
I think we got a shot. I really do. But we'll probably lose, but I think we got a shot.
Are you saying there's a chance?
You know, I should have brought an Austin beer into the mix.
Oh, you're too good for Houston now?
Yeah.
All right. Ryan, do you want to talk us through format today?
So yeah, we're going to stick with the format that works. We're going to just blind taste all of these different styles, and then we're going to tally up all our results and see who comes out on top here. Nothing fancy this time. I do have another question though. Like, is this the first time you've done a third iteration of an episode idea on the Beer Ain't Easy podcast?
I think you would call it the third inaugural Oktoberfest episode.
The trifecta inaugural. Wow.
So this is the most established episode of the podcast.
And I expect it to be the most viewed podcast of all time, quite frankly.
At least listen to.
We always get that Adam bump when we put your name in the credits.
Now that the Austin market's following me, I can only imagine what it'll be.
That's true.
All right, so I think we need to introduce these beers, man. We may be a little disorganized today. I got to be honest for the listeners. I've had a few IT issues today, and I actually held both Adam and Ryan on the hook for over an hour trying to set this shit up today. So I think we need to drink some beer.
So I've always wondered how those poor bastards on the other end of Drew's IT problems felt, as we consistently have had IT problems anytime we've brought a third party into the podcast. Now I know how terrible it is to sit there and watch Drew fumbling through his IT problems while you're sitting there watching your beer get warm.
All right, so we've introduced Paulaner as our reigning champ. What Houston beers are we going to put up against it?
Well, in our previous blind tasting episodes, we've had one reigning champ that keeps coming back for more, and that's been 11 Below Brewing. So we had to include their Oktoberfest into the mix today.
Definitely. I didn't think about the fact that they always clean up these blind tastings, so that'll make this really interesting.
What else we got, Adam?
I threw away the cans.
I can't wait till we get to the end and realize you don't know which beer is which in yours.
So I guess I'll take up the mantle then. the former.
You've got to leave that in there.
It's been a bumpy start to this episode.
So the former closest brewery to my house when I was a cool kid living in the Heights, New Magnolia. We got their Oktoberfest. We brought that one in too. So I guess, Drew, you want to take us home on the last one?
The last one, we recently came back from a little visit to Galveston, and so this is actually the Galveston Island Brewing Oktoberfest. So these are all 3 Houston Oktoberfest that we have not had on the podcast.
This being our 3rd Oktoberfest, in order to avoid it being a second inaugural warm beer episode, do we want to go ahead and get into it?
Oh, yeah. I think we need to start drinking.
So I guess right off the top with beer number 1, what do you guys notice about this beer?
3 out of the 4 have a very similar color, and this one is the odd one out.
Sure, you're underselling it a little bit. Most of them have kind of a deep, kind of reddish color, and this one like straight up looks like a Pilsner. It's so much lighter than the other ones.
It has a different smell to it as well.
Yeah, it's got like an earthy smell to it.
It is very tasty though.
Yeah, there's just like a hint of like mild sweetness with like, that earthy finish that you kind of matches the aroma, that earthy finish. But yeah, that one's very tasty. That's like a Texas Oktoberfest where it's still super hot out, so you can still drink it. It's not too heavy.
Oh, that's a good description. I know you're always like splitting hairs on like what's an Oktoberfest beer versus a Fest beer versus a Marzen. Is there anything, Ryan, different between those 3 beers, or is that just like tiny details? Because I feel like this is almost a different style of beer.
Well, I only had an hour to do this research ahead of time, and I still don't know. So
I sent Ryan this picture that showed the difference between Oktoberfest and Marzen, and it was the pints and panels like we were talking about in our last episode, and they put the ingredient list side by side, and it was like 95% of all the same shit, and like one little thing different. I was like, okay, is that really a different beer?
Yeah, the SRM color was like shifted slightly, but everything else is pretty much identical.
All right, Ryan, you've had time to analyze number 2 here. What are you smelling? What are you tasting?
I feel like I don't smell as much as the first one, but it's definitely got a lot more malt to back this one up. It might be, I think it's a little bit more bitter as well.
I think it's a little sweeter.
Yeah, that like malty sweetness comes through for sure.
It's almost like almost a little syrupy, the malt sweetness in this one. I don't know if that's a bad descriptor.
Yeah, I think, well, especially coming off this first one that was so light, it definitely tastes kind of syrupy. I'm like, want to give it a minute and try to see if maybe we're just, getting screwed up by that one before.
Yeah, we had the ringer at the start. So while we're sipping on these, like when we talk about the best Houston Oktoberfest that you've ever had, what jumps out to y'all?
For me, it is, of course, Texas Liger, like every favorite beer that I've had on the podcast.
I was waiting for you to give like a 10-minute speech about how much you love Texas Liger beers.
It's funny because like whenever we do the blind taste test, I love their beers, but I don't really like think of them as like one of my favorite breweries. I guess because like it's not really close by, so like we never really go there.
So I didn't choose them today. 1, because they weren't at the store when I was buying all these other ones, and 2, because I may have picked them a little lower than you on that inaugural episode. So we needed a new batch.
Damn it, Drew.
So Ryan, how about you? Do you have any Oktoberfest beers from Houston that jump out to you?
I mean, I just have to fall back to my my constant fallback is Eureka Heights. That's the von Wolfhausen is the only one I've had consistently all the time. I don't really drink that much Oktoberfest beer, which I don't know why, because I do like it. And especially, yeah, like I was excited about this episode. These first two I'm excited about. I really like them. So I don't know why I can never hype myself up for Oktoberfest beers.
I have a bad habit of overbuying Oktoberfest. Like I always like buy a ton of Oktoberfest, and then like next thing you know, it's like March and there's Oktoberfest in my fridge.
Yeah, and it holds up fine, but it's like in March where you're like, do I really want to drink an Oktoberfest? Yeah. So what jumps out to me is actually, from a Houston standpoint, is Adam and I went to this Oktoberfest festival in Pearland called Music to My Beers, and that's actually going on again in basically the end of the month in September. And they had a lot of breweries bring their batches of Oktoberfest so you could taste them all side by side. And I remember my top three from last year. One of them we're drinking today, which is the new Magnolia. I thought was one of my top three. Valencin's also made a really good one. But my favorite, hands down, was from Devil in the Deep Brewing coming out of Galveston. Do you remember that one, Adam?
That was a good Oktoberfest. There were some really good Oktoberfest there.
Yeah, for sure. But unfortunately, they don't all can. So we got the canned versions for today. So have y'all moved on to number 3?
It's less bitter than number 2.
I like this one a lot. This one's like super smooth.
Yeah, that's the thing that jumped out to me right away. Yeah, it's much smoother. So yeah, I think it is because of that less bitterness that it finishes a lot smoother. I get a little bit more aroma off this one, just a hint of like malt, but I think still, I don't know. Am I crazy, or because I think this one's relatively subdued too, but maybe I just have like allergies or something.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, the last episode we did, Ryan, we were like punched in the face with blueberries, so I think maybe you're still recoiling from that. But yeah, there's not like a ton of aroma on these beers, but they taste good.
I'm getting like the slightest hint of like oxidation on the finish, just like a little bit of like cardboardiness. If it didn't have that, it would like finish so clean.
Is it time to dive into number 4?
Absolutely.
We're flying through these.
Ooh, the nose on this one. Speaking of nose, this one I feel like has the strongest nose out of the 4.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not crazy. There's aromas here.
When you're drinking 4 Oktoberfests, like I wish I had some crackers or something, because like it's all kind of blending together. I'm gonna have to use my water.
So Drew, what are you setting your beers on as you sit in the closet right now?
Yeah, for the listeners, because of all those IT issues, I am currently trapped in the closet.
R. Kelly jokes are approved by the legal team.
All right, so I'm currently trapped in the closet, and I am setting my beers down on the carpet. And I've noticed that there's some interesting props in here with me, like this weird-looking dolls for my daughters.
Why is the doll's mouth open?
Adam, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say here? We first started R. Kelly, and now you're talking about this creepy doll. Cut that.
No, leave it in.
I'm suddenly wondering if it was really IT issues we were having here.
Definitely getting canceled. So what are your thoughts on number 4?
So it seems really similar to number 3 to me, but it just has like a slightly more like syrupy finish. So I'm just knocking it ever so slightly behind number 3.
Yeah, I get a little bit of the syrupy finish, but I do really like the nose on it. So I'm okay with the syrupiness on this one because of the sweetness with it.
I have a BS story.
Let's go for it.
So we had someone sign a contract on our house, and this guy was the biggest douchebag you could ever imagine.
The guy that's moving in is my neighbor?
Yes.
God damn it.
So he did like this inspection, and he did the normal inspection, and then he came back and he had like 4 additional inspectors, like with specialty inspectors in each area. Jody saw him. He had his like hair slicked back in a suit, and he had like a binder with like all of the inspection reports, and he was like reviewing it with everyone. And all I could think about is how much I'm going to laugh at Drew when this douchebag is his neighbor in my place.
Oh, God. So I think we need to bring him on the podcast. That's the only way to solve which is a better neighbor is to bring him on the podcast and see how he does in a blind tasting.
So I had to cancel the contract once I saw it. I just couldn't do it to Drew.
Thank you. I appreciate that. There's no way.
Yeah. We refused to negotiate, but the side item is we had someone sign a backup contract, so that may have been a side factor.
Okay.
All I could think about was replacing the coolest family in the greater Houston area with these douchebags.
Oh, thank God. All right, y'all. Well, Ryan and I have a treat for y'all. We have an episode within an episode, and we have got an Oktoberfest experiment to bring at you. Ryan, do you want to describe what we're going to do today?
We've done an episode on the movie Beer Fest, and kind of the main climax of the movie is Das Boot Chug.
Das Boot.
And there's their big reveal on how to properly do the boot, and that is to twist the boot. And I've always wondered, I don't know if you have, Drew, but I've always wondered if that is actually a true statement on how to do this or not.
You know, if anything, the Beering Ain't Easy podcast is curious. And so this whole time after watching Beer Fest, I'm like, that's a bunch of bullshit. They just made that up for the movie. But then I went and bought a boot, actually from Total Wine. And on the side of the boot, it has a little descriptor that says, drinking from a beer boot can be a challenge and can result in unexpected beer shower if not done correctly. The trick is to slowly point the toe to the left or the right as the glass is emptied. If the toe is pointed upwards while drinking, the toe will build up pressure and release unexpectedly, spilling beer everywhere. So it's got to be legit if it's on the box, right?
That's true. Do you have any theories as to the physics behind this?
I still think it's a bunch of shit. So what I want to do is I'm willing to put my body on the line to test it, and I'm going to chug a boot, and I am not going to turn it. And I think you should turn it, and we'll see who has the quicker draw and who has the maximum spillage.
Oh, I'm turning it for sure. I think the reason why I ask is I actually have a theory here. I think the kind of phenomenon that's going on here, I think is like hydraulic lock. I think you're pulling a vacuum on that toe, and then once it finally can suck air in, it's all going to release at the same time. So I think this is a legit thing.
No, I think this is pseudoscience.
You got some towels on deck over there?
The lab over here has been known to have a few beer explosions, and we have ants that currently live in here and feast on the leftover beer on the ground. So it's just more food for the ants.
You're on a first name basis with an exterminator. So I know I'm just stalling over here. What are your thoughts?
Let's at least introduce the beer that we've got in there. And I kind of want to cheat a little bit because it's a beer I've never had before. And I kind of want to take a sip out of my boot before we chug. So maybe we can agree to one sip.
Yes, I agree. The one sip boot challenge.
So I'm going to butcher this German name, but it's the Weihenstephaner Helles. And this is the world's oldest brewery, brewed in Bavaria, Germany since 1040. Holy shit, that's old. So I thought a Helles lager is where it's at for a beer chug. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great call. I was thinking we were going to do one of our our traditional American Oktoberfest Marzen, and I was like really dreading this.
Yeah, right. So I have got mine down to the proper room temperature, and it's still pretty damn carbonated. We just poured it, so it's still pretty fizzy. But I'm just going to go in for a sip to see what I think about this Helles lager.
Yeah, before I go in for a sip,
I got a preview on the boot. Nothing to be concerned of.
Oh my god! was that?
So there's some premature bubbling going on this boot. So this is going to be quite a wild ride.
That scared the shit out of me.
Oh my God. So what happened is turn the glass up, straight up and down, and it already had a little bit of a gurgle. So my confidence level is waning a little bit, but I'm still sticking true to my predictions.
I thought I was like picking up my glass to go take a sip and someone like dropped a golf ball on it.
I can't even remember what the beer tasted like. I was so thrown off by that.
I had to pull away and go back for a second sip, but it is delicious.
Oh my God. Yeah, we need to do a Hellas Lager episode. This is where it's at.
I'm afraid to go in and do the turn. I just want to go in sideways from the get-go.
You have to start with the toe pointed outward, but I'll allow you to turn it pretty soon afterwards. But you're going to have to deal with that initial gurgle there. The other thing, the last time we did a beer chug, I think I slightly edged you out, but like by a millisecond. So I think it's a fair fight. So really, the fastest chug is all depending on the physics of this. That's how it has to be.
I mean, I just want to set the record straight. Yeah, you beat me in the shotgun pretty handily, but in the Beer Olympics episode, I won in the straight beer chug at the beginning.
Ryan, no one listened to that episode anyway, so it's the tree fell in the forest. I mean,
that's why I need to put that out there on this episode. All right.
All right, let's put the show on the road, man. Let's do this.
Oh God, I'm so scared.
I got that little like nervous twitch in my hands. All right. You want me to give us a countdown?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
All right,
Done.
I had one casualty down here.
I have 2 tiny streams, so technically I do have a slight bit more spillage than you do, and I finished slightly later.
I'll jump out ahead of you and say that I didn't turn mine quite fast enough, and I just got a half bubble, and it caused it to wave back and forth, like bounce back and forth, and that's when I spilled a little bit on my shirt, but it settled out enough where I finished. How was that for you?
I agree that the early parts of it was the hardest. Once you got tilted almost horizontal, you didn't have that air bubble popping out, but it's that period of time right when that bubble comes up that it sloshes. And so it's legit. Like, I think you have to drink down to the point where there's not a bubble at the toe. So on this particular glass, that's really not that far down. Like, you need to turn it pretty early. It's not like you wait to the very end. It's like you turn it while you're liquid full above that toe. That's what I got.
For sure. Like I said, I didn't turn it fast enough. I thought I had some time. I did not have any time at all.
I do feel like that was kind of a waste of this Hellas Lager, but it still was worth it for the science.
I'm tempted to go get more of that because it was very good. I told you up front, I thought this was 100% real. You were skeptical. How surprised are you? Were you steadfast in your opinion, or were you kind of on the fence?
I went in pretty confident until we did that test run, and it gurgled at me, and I was like, oh shit, this may be real. So I guess if they put a disclaimer on the boot, it's got to be real.
I guess so. I mean, I could have written that off as like a marketing gimmick. But
I've learned you just need to trust everything that you read, like unquestionably.
I agree.
So officially, myth confirmed.
Confirmed, 100%. And I got a dark horse making a comeback down the backstretch here now that I'm going back through all these again. Yeah, this is like the most to the point and succinct blind tasting we've ever done. Just like fly through them. It's like, all right, here we go.
I think you fly through when you've been waiting for an hour to drink your beer. I think like that makes it go a little faster. All right, are y'all ready to throw your rankings on the line?
I'm ready. Put my nuts on the table.
Is that what those Is that what those 2 raisins are that you got on the camera?
Those are the 2 grapefruits.
All right, Ryan, take us out of this debauchery and give us your rankings.
Give me a second. Let me get up an Excel spreadsheet here.
Oh my God. Let's start with our least favorite beer out of this. Ryan, what do you got?
So I ended up deciding that number 4 was my least favorite. Just that syrupy finish kind of, it turned me away from it. I would take a sip of that. All the other ones, after I took a sip, I was taking another sip. But that one, I would take a sip and then I would go back to another one. And that kind of told me everything I needed to know. So that one was my 4th. What about you, Adam?
I concur. Number 4.
My least favorite was actually number 2 because it was a little syrupy, but also a little bit more bitter than the other options. So I like sweetness in my beers. So my third favorite was actually the number 4 beer. So I wasn't too far off from y'all.
And my number 3 beer was the number 2 beer.
I'll throw a wrench in the mix. I decided on number 3 being my third favorite beer, and I'll touch on that later on. I'll come back to it and explain what my thought process was on that.
Okay.
All right, and runner-up beers. Drew?
My number 2 favorite beer is actually number 3.
Wow.
But it was a close call. I'll be honest. My number 1 and my number 2 were very close, neck and neck, even though they're very different beers. This one was smooth and a very enjoyable, darker Oktoberfest.
How about you, Adam?
Number 1 actually was my runner-up, and I really liked the last 2 beers quite a bit. I guess the deciding factor for me came down to maltiness. And, I love the malt.
He's a malt man.
Fair enough. I actually, I put number 2 as my number 2 beer. While we were tasting it, I said it was a dark horse making a run and down the back stretch. I initially had this one behind number 3, so kind of more matching you guys. But after I drank 3 and 4 and I came back to this one, we had talked about how it was more bitter and how the other ones were smoother. And I thought I liked that at first, but then when I went back, I realized that bitterness kind of balanced it out for me a little bit. It gave it a little more kind of depth and interest. So I bumped it up at the very, very last second. This leaves number 1.
I'm sure all the listeners remember which beers we have left at this point.
Yeah. So I guess that's me and Ryan got the number 1 beer as our favorite, and Adam's got number 3 as his favorite.
Number 3 is his favorite.
I think you brought up a good point, though, Ryan. I did just have a couple more sips of number 2, and I may have ranked it a little too low, but
It was your last ranked beer.
yeah, got to come back. But let's start with that one as the grand reveal.
Number 2, the polarizing one.
The polarizing beer, the grand reveal, number 2. New Magnolia.
Wow.
Wow.
I thought New Magnolia was number 3, I'll be honest.
I did too. I think I may have not given it a fair shake, but it could be my bias influencing me since I love your beers. All right. So we'll go in the order since we all had number 4 kind of towards the tail end there. Let's reveal number 4.
I feel like we always fall back on this explanation, but it needs to be said again. None of these beers were bad. I feel like we can all agree that we enjoyed everything, right?
Yeah.
So just because it came in 4th place, just because it came in 4th
all
place
these beers again
doesn't mean it's no Blueberry Money or whatever that one was.
Oh yeah, let's not bring that one back up. So number 4, Galveston Island Brewing.
So the 2 we've covered so far with our compiled rankings were our bottom 2 beers. So Galveston Island ended up averaging the lowest at 3.7, and New Magnolia ended up averaging out as the number 3 beer.
Oh, that's why you needed the spreadsheet. I got you.
Yeah.
I was wondering what you could possibly be doing with the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
We have the statistics from our statistics manager, Ryan. All right.
So the number 3 beer was our second ranked beer at a 2.0, whereas number 1 averaged 1.3. So let's go ahead and reveal number 3 next.
Number 3 reveal. 11 Below Brewing. So another solid showing by 11 Below.
They put up a solid fight, and that leaves Paulaner as the number one. Huh?
Yeah, I had a feeling that Paulaner was going to be the light one, but man, it is such a good beer. Damn it.
See, I almost wonder if I was subconsciously, because that was the only beer that I knew which one it was. Because as soon as I poured it, it had such a different look than the others that it was impossible for me to forget that.
All right. Any takeaways on this?
I picked a Houston beer.
Adam picked 11 Below. So the one that always puts up the good fight put up another good fight.
The theme continues that they are making some damn good beers. One thing that we didn't talk about was like, is there a difference between like an American Oktoberfest and a German Oktoberfest? Because Paulaner is super light. We talked about the color difference, but man, it's good. So are we doing it wrong in the U.S. and trying to go too malty?
I think there is an association of what an Oktoberfest should be in America, and that's probably not true over in Germany and anywhere else.
Because like all three Houston beers, they went malty and they went a little sweeter. And there's something to be said about this nice, crisp, summery beer that we got over here from Paulaner.
Oh my God. It's even better when it's carbonated.
It's such a good beer. All right, Ryan, I got to spit some knowledge at you. So as we were questioning this light versus dark Oktoberfest, I Googled it on my phone and I found out some things that were quite interesting. You want to hear the secret between the light versus dark Oktoberfest?
I'm into this. Let's hear it.
All right, man. Timeline here. Germans create Marzen beers. Nice, lovely, malty beers. The original Oktoberfest is all about it. But then as it became a big party event, they made a switch to the lighter beers. So Paulaner, our reigning champ, actually was the front runner on this in 1970s. And they went to a lighter beer so that when people are crushing it under those tents, they're not drinking a high ABV malt bomb. They got something a little nicer, more appropriate to drink through the day. So they made the switch, and the U.S. is making the traditional Marzen. So it seems like a back-asswards kind of situation here. What do you think?
Yeah, leave it to America to try to stick with the traditional way when it's not even the traditional way anymore.
And when I read the 1970s, I was like, and U.S. beers aren't like jumping on that at this point? I mean, that's a long time ago.
So Paulaner did the original jump to the crispy boy.
Yes. They had it right all along, and they won the competition for a reason. People want that crispy boys.
That makes so much sense. Yeah, if you're going to be sitting there drinking all day long and like pounding these, like, God, can you imagine having like multiple Marzens, like how awful you'd start feeling so fast?
Oh, yeah. What threw me off is what they said they changed it to. They called it Oktoberfest beer or Fest beer. So you remember at the start of the episode, we were like, what's the hell's the difference between all of those? According to this article, they're saying the Fest beer is the lighter version of Oktoberfest, but I kind of want to test that theory now.
Yeah, once again, that tracks.
One last fun fact for you, Ryan. Did you know there's only 6 breweries that are allowed to sell beer at the official Munich Oktoberfest?
So is that all like local breweries then?
If you can guess 5 out of 6, then you win this episode.
All right, so one's Paulaner.
Ding, ding, ding.
Is Weihenstephaner one of them?
No.
They're not one?
Mm-mm.
Hofbrau?
Yes.
Uh-oh. That might be all I got.
I'll give you one hint. One of them was on the first ever Beering and Easy Oktoberfest episode.
I didn't listen to that. Come on. I'm kidding. I listened to it, but that was a long time ago. That was so many beers ago. Spaten. That was it. That's what I was thinking of when I said it.
Then there's Augustiner, Hacker Sohr, and Lowenbrau.
I would have. You could have given me a week and I wouldn't have gotten any of those.
There you have it, folks.
That is kind of wild. Like, I didn't realize they like iced everybody out like that. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to let those U.S. heavy malty Marzens in.
You guys got anything like a Coors Light?
Paulaner, hold my beer. All right, I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. This is the Drew Closet episode brought to you by Warm Oktoberfest Beers. This has been fun again. I'm glad y'all waited with me for this thing, but blind tastings, Oktoberfest, you can't get any better than that. There's no losers on the table. All right, Ryan, you're on the clock. Close us out.
There you have it, folks. We tried to knock off the native German Paulaner at their own game with the Oktoberfest beers. They said, next time you better not bring 3, you better bring 9.
Oh, damn.
Ryan, come on, man. Man, I give you the throne and this is what you do?
This has been a Beering Ain't Easy production out of Houston, Texas. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook or at our website at crossthestreamsmedia.com, where you can find our podcast and all the other great sister podcasts on our network.
This has been a Cross the Streams Media Podcast.
I almost went into a birds aren't real.
Speaking of things I read, did you know that birds aren't real?
Have you read about this? The government killed off all these birds and replaced them with drones to keep eyes on us?